By the late 1930s, Japan had become one of the most powerful nations in Asia. Driven by military ambition and a thirst for resources, it invaded China, then expanded across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. As Japanese forces conquered new territories, they looted everything of value: gold, diamonds, statues, art, coins, and religious artifacts. Temples, banks, and museums were stripped bare. Trains and ships carried vast quantities of treasure back toward Japan, or, according to some accounts, toward a secret hiding place. The looting was systematic and massive, coordinated by the highest levels of the Japanese government and the imperial family itself. The project, some say, was called the Golden Lily. The Golden Lily was allegedly the code name for Japan's secret operation to plunder Asia's wealth. Supervised by Prince Yasuhito Chichibu, Emperor Hirohito's brother, the operation collected gold and valuables from across the territories Japan occupied. The treasure was meant to finance Japan's war effort and to ensure that, even in defeat, the empire would survive in secret wealth. Ships carried the loot through the South China Sea to the Philippines, chosen for its strategic location and network of caves, tunnels, and jungles that could serve as natural vaults. There, under Japanese military engineers and local forced labor, massive underground chambers were carved. Treasure was reportedly buried, often sealed with explosives, and the workers who built them. According to survivors' testimonies, only a few high-ranking officers knew the exact locations. One of them was General Tomoyuki Yamashita. Tomoyuki Yamashita was born in 1885 and rose through the ranks of the Imperial Japanese Army to become one of its most respected commanders. He was known as the Tiger of Malaya for his stunning victories against the British in Singapore and Southeast Asia. But by 1944, as the tide of war turned, Yamashita was sent to the Philippines, tasked with defending the islands against the advancing Americans. He arrived to find chaos. Japanese officials and military officers were reportedly using the Philippines to store the last remaining caches of Golden Lily treasure. Thousands of tons of gold bullion, gems, and art hidden in mountain tunnels, bunkers, and caves. As U.S. forces closed in, Yamashita's troops were said to have guarded the final burial operations. Whether he personally ordered the concealment or merely oversaw it remains a matter of debate. But when Japan surrendered in August 1945, the treasure, if it existed, was lost with him. The battle for the Philippines was brutal. Cities were destroyed, tens of thousands killed. Amid the chaos, Japanese forces destroyed records, burned maps, and executed laborers who had helped hide the treasure. In 1945, Yamashita surrendered to U.S. troops. He was tried for war crimes in Manila and executed by hanging in 1946. He never spoke of hidden gold. But as the war ended, stories began to circulate of local villagers who had seen convoys of trucks carrying crates into the mountains, of tunnels sealed with concrete and dynamite, and of strange markings, Japanese symbols carved into rocks, trees, and cave walls, pointing to buried treasure. The legend of Yamashita's gold had begun. In the years after the war, American occupation forces scoured the Philippines for hidden Japanese loot. Among them were intelligence agents, engineers, and treasure hunters, some working officially, others privately. One of the most controversial names in this story is Ferdinand Marcos, who later became president of the Philippines. According to numerous reports, Marcos discovered parts of the treasure in the 1960s and 1970s and used it to fund his political empire. Although no hard evidence was ever produced, Several witnesses claimed to have seen gold bars stamped with Japanese insignia in his possession. Another name frequently mentioned is Rogelio Roxas, a Filipino locksmith who in 1971 claimed to have found one of Yamashita's hidden chambers in Baguio City. Inside, he said he discovered crates of gold bars and a golden Buddha statue filled with diamonds. Roxas's story ended in tragedy. His find was seized by authorities, and he was later arrested and beaten. He sued Marcos's family years later, and in 1996, a U.S. court ruled in his favor, awarding his estate hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet no physical treasure was ever recovered or verified. Some historians believe the United States discovered the treasure shortly after Japan's surrender and secretly recovered parts of it. According to researcher Sterling Seagrave, author of Gold Warriors, American intelligence officers found several of the Golden Lily caches and used them to create secret funds for post-war operations, including the rebuilding of Japan and anti-communist efforts during the Cold War. If true, this would mean that Yamashita's gold was not entirely lost, but quietly absorbed into the shadow economy of global politics. However, official records deny any such recovery. The U.S. government has never confirmed finding treasure in the Philippines. Over the decades, explorers have claimed to possess maps, documents, and coded symbols pointing to the treasure sites. Many of these are marked with Japanese kanji, numbers, or arrows, often etched on rocks, trees, or old tunnel entrances. Treasure hunters interpret these as coordinates or instructions left by Japanese engineers. But the maps are inconsistent, often forgeries, and lead to nowhere. Some diggers have died in collapses or accidents. Others have spent fortunes searching and found nothing but rusted weapons, bones, and mud. Yet every time a rumor resurfaces a new map, a new witness, the fever starts again. By the 1980s and 1990s, Yamashita's gold had become more than a rumor, it was a phenomenon. Books, documentaries, and films spread the story across the world. In the Philippines, treasure hunting became a national obsession. Entire villages participated in digs. Families passed down maps and stories as heirlooms. Even respected businessmen and politicians were rumored to be involved. The line between history and legend blurred completely. In the 21st century, new technologies have revived the hunt. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and magnetometers have been used to scan suspected sites, particularly in the mountains of Luzon, Mindanao, and Cebu. Several expeditions have been launched by private companies and government agencies. Some claim to have found sealed chambers or metal readings consistent with large buried objects, but excavation is risky. Many sites are on private land or protected military zones. Others are booby-trapped with explosives left by the Japanese. To date, no verified discovery of Yamashita's gold has ever been made public. Historians remain divided on the truth of Yamashita's gold. Some believe it is a myth, a story born from Japan's vast wartime looting, but exaggerated over time. They point out that Japan shipped most of its stolen wealth back to the home islands, not the Philippines. Others argue the opposite, that the scale of the Golden Lily operation was so vast that it was impossible to transport everything before Japan's defeat. Even Japanese archives admit to massive wartime plunder, but remain silent about where it ended up. The secrecy of post-war governments, both Japanese and American, only fuels suspicion. And so, the debate continues. Beyond the gold and legends lies a darker reality. Tens of thousands of Filipino laborers were forced to dig the tunnels and chambers for Japan's treasure vaults. Most never came out alive. When the sites were sealed, They were buried alongside the treasure itself. The forests and hills that now attract treasure hunters are, in truth, mass graves. Each time a new excavation begins, bones are often found, silent reminders of the lives lost in the making of this legend. It is a haunting truth, often forgotten amid the promise of riches. General Yamashita remains a complex figure in history, a brilliant strategist, yet a man condemned for atrocities committed under his command. He denied knowledge of hidden treasure until his death, but his name is forever tied to the mystery. Whether or not he personally ordered the burials, the myth of his gold has ensured his immortality, not as a soldier, but as the keeper of one of the greatest lost fortunes in history. Even today, new claims appear every few years. Someone discovers a new map, a hidden tunnel, a metallic echo deep underground. The Philippine government occasionally reopens investigations, though always with caution. For some, Yamashita's gold is more than treasure. It is national pride, a symbol of wartime suffering and colonial exploitation. For others, it is simply the greatest unsolved mystery of the 20th century. The truth may lie buried beneath tons of earth, sealed by time and secrecy. The legend of Yamashita's gold endures because it speaks to something deeper than greed. It is a story about power, war, and the shadows left behind when empires fall. It is about humanity's unending desire to uncover what is hidden, to believe that even in tragedy, some secret fortune might remain buried, waiting for discovery. Perhaps the gold was real. Perhaps it never existed. But the search and the belief continues to this day. And somewhere in the mountains of the Philippines, beneath vines and silence, a secret still waits, real or imagined, to tell its final story.